Hello and welcome to another edition of your favorite podcast, Burgers and Brats. Got a great episode for you guys today, going over the latest college football playoff rankings that just came out, to predict some games for this upcoming week, NFL games, a weird week, just crazy week in the NFL this past weekend. Are going to give power rankings in that and predict a few of those matchups for later on coming up. But first, make sure you follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, anywhere else you get your podcasts at Burgers and Brats, and stay up to date with the latest news on Twitter, Instagram, and hopefully you're watching right now on YouTube at Burgers and Brats. Now, I'm joined by a very special guest, Matt from the Prairie Report, also known as Grass News. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hey man, thanks for having me, and thanks for the new nickname too, by the way. I feel like that everybody has to know where the Grass News comes in from. That is thanks to this man right here, Braxton, for dubbing me as Grass News. So appreciate it, man.
Yeah, not even a week old with the new name. All started because I wanted some Christmas music.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Feeling good about it. Feeling good about it.
So where can we find you on social media? What can we find you as?
Well, I'm really active on Twitter. Obviously, that's kind of the big thing that I've been doing for the last 5-6 years with the Prairie Report. I've been pretty much the sole person, and running that. I'll write an article here and there from time to time. You can find me at prairiereportou.com. That's my website. And then of course I do like Instagram. I do some Snapchat stuff whenever I'm in town for games. It's just Prairie Report OU on both of those. But yeah, man, mostly on Twitter. I do some stuff on Facebook as well under the Prairie Report webpage on Facebook. So just kind of mostly active on Twitter though. So, and actually just got started a second Twitter right now here recently with Prairie Recruit. And that's where we're just getting a bunch of recruiting news, putting it on the timeline. And that kind of is got some clearance from the guys at Sooner Scoop, Football Brainiacs, 247 with Brandon Drum, getting a lot of really good crystal ball stuff retweeted. So that way we have all of Oklahoma's recruiting news in one line where Oklahoma fans can find it in the most convenient way possible in one spot. So
that's awesome. That's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially for the OU fans, and we'll have that out. I'll put that out on Burgers and Brats tomorrow when this podcast drops. When I put that out there. But so let's get started. Let's talk college football playoff rankings. Another week, another just laughing matter. I don't understand it. I know it's all for likes and views now. But before we talk about the committee's top teams, let's go through our top six. So coming at number. We'll start from number one because we all know number one. So number one, I've got Georgia. Yeah. Yes, and the most dominant team. I mean, you could say they really haven't played anybody, but they've been winning by 40 every game. So they are the most dominant team. Number two, I got OU, the first 9-0 team. Haven't looked great doing it. Had their first complete game last week or 2 weeks ago. So we'll see if that carries on. They got a big matchup versus Baylor. That will determine if this OU team is real or not. Right. Cincinnati, 9-0. Reward undefeated teams. Haven't looked great doing it, but you're undefeated. That's extremely hard to do. And then number four, I've actually got Ohio State in this one. I know they have that loss to Oregon, so that head-to-head is different, but Ohio State has looked a lot better than Oregon these last few weeks. Not a great game against Nebraska, but we all kind of knew that was a trap game going in, but their offense has looked really good. CJ Stroud has looked a lot better than what he did in the beginning of the year. And defense, though, needs to step up there. Number five, I've got Oregon. Only one loss in the year, but they had that great win at Ohio State where I don't think any of us picked Oregon to win that game. And then number six, I've got Bama. They've got that loss to A&M. They've been lucky. A&M looks really good right now, so maybe that loss isn't as bad as we thought it was a few weeks ago, but Alabama just has not looked good. 6 rushing yards against LSU last week with an interim head coach. So that is my 1 through 6. So Matt, what's your 1 through 6?
So absolutely, number one, obviously Georgia. Like you said, and I know I've been a big person out there saying this as well, but I haven't really bought into Georgia yet. regardless of how the season ends. At this point right now, watching Georgia play football, it's very apparent they're the sole complete team in the country right now, and there's no arguing it. So you can only play the opponents that you have on your schedule. Georgia's done that. They've looked dominant against those teams. So yeah, they absolutely deserve to be number one, regardless of how anybody feels that, their season's going to end. Number two, I have Cincinnati. Obviously, I don't have Oklahoma at number two solely because of the fact that we did struggle coming out of the season. We had a lot of trouble against some teams that we shouldn't have. A lot of that could be pointed to coaching. A lot of that could be pointed to maybe it's this guy isn't doing really good. We obviously struggle with our offensive line. So Cincinnati obviously gets the nod ahead of us at number two for that reason, and for the fact that Cincinnati's a really good football team, and they've got probably one of the best defensive backs in the country on that defense. So they can play on both sides of the ball. So I right now I have Cincinnati ahead of Oklahoma. They haven't really looked great, obviously, in a few games, but Oklahoma, we had probably like 4 or 5 games where we should have blown guys out, and we didn't. So that's why I have Oklahoma at number 3. Number 4, I have Alabama. Obviously, they have the loss already. I'm not in favor of putting undefeated teams behind teams with a loss because it just doesn't make any sense, especially when you have those 3 teams right there that are very good football teams. They haven't lost yet. They shouldn't be punished for that. So I believe that Alabama comes in at number 4. Then you talk about number 5 is Oregon. Obviously, they have probably one of the most impressive wins out of anybody in the top 5 right now with that Ohio State game. Man, and I'm really bummed that CJ Verdell got hurt because he's probably one of my favorite running backs in the country right now. He's been very underrated, and I've been saying it since he's a sophomore. He's probably going to be, should have been one of the top running backs in this draft class. So at number 6, I've got Notre Dame, which I know shocks a lot of people, but when you're making the argument, which a lot of people have, is that teams haven't looked really great and this and that and haven't played anybody. Well, Notre Dame's schedule is probably one of the most difficult schedules out of anybody in the top 10, and I feel like they should be rewarded for that. I don't think that at the end of the season, Notre Dame's the number 16 in the country, but that's the thing about these rankings is we're going off a week-by-week basis, and Notre Dame has taken care of business outside of Cincinnati. You talk about quality losses, as much as that makes me want to vomit. Their one loss is to the number 2 team in the country. So how can you penalize a team for losing to the number 2 team in the country like that harshly? So that's my top 6 right there.
I like that top 6. I really hadn't thought of Notre Dame because we always, once they get that one loss, we kind of move past them. But I like that. My 1 through 5 was that last week. I made some changes this week, but
yeah,
I like that Notre Dame. They do have a quality loss.
Pretty reasonable compared to what we have, but that's just me.
Yeah. So the committee's rankings, we'll go down 10 through 1. Number 10, Oklahoma State. Kind of like that. I thought they'd maybe go 9.
Yeah.
Notre Dame though comes in at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma stays at 8. Michigan State falls to 7, even though with their head win over Michigan, who is at 6. Top 5, Cincinnati, number 5, 4, Ohio State, number 3, Oregon, number 2, Alabama, and number 1, Georgia. What do you see out of that top 10 that you don't like, you're just confused about?
Oh man, where do I start? Oh goodness. My first one obviously is Alabama. Where are you going to put Alabama if they don't have a loss? Because Georgia's the most complete team in the country. That was very apparent even as far back as 4 or 5 weeks ago when Alabama struggled with Florida. They struggled, obviously, and lost to Texas A&M, who has 2 losses. I don't get it. How is Bama lost and be in the same spot that they would be in if they have no losses? And I think that's really where you see the cracks in the system is if you can't pick a solid top 2. And when you have 3 teams, technically 4, but UTSA obviously doesn't belong in this conversation right now or ever. But
Come on, give some love to the Roadrunners, bro.
hey, you know what?
Come on.
If they went out, give them a chance. Let's see what happens. I hope Oklahoma gets to go up against them. It'll be great. That'll be easy first round win. But when you have undefeated teams, especially Power 5 teams that are undefeated, and you have 5 teams with 1 loss ahead of a school like Oklahoma, regardless of how those games are played, if you do not put a 1-loss team ahead of Oklahoma, and that's where we're seeing a lot of gamemanship from this committee. Obviously, there is a person from the Big 12 that's in there. I'm not going to mention their name because I'm not trying to dox anybody on the internet, but there is somebody from the Big 12 in there, and I feel like there is some gamesmanship and a little bit of Oklahoma being punished for wanting to lead the Big 12. I think that there is some politicking going against Oklahoma. That's the only thing that can really make sense to me. When you hear the explanations for how this committee put together this top 10, I want to know what their affinity is with the Big 10. They literally are in love with that conference, but the West is a 4-way tie between 3 teams that are 6-3 and a 7-2 team. And so there's clearly no playoff potential between any of those teams. You have the East with a 3-way tie between 3 8-1 teams who have horrendous losses. Really, Michigan's loss isn't that bad right now, but and then you have Michigan
16
State
points at halftime. Like that shouldn't even have a loss right now.
It makes no sense, and you're talking about the fact that they're ranked ahead of the team that beat them 10 days ago. And it makes no sense. And I know that's been a big talking point today too on ESPN. And then you look at the bottom half of the East, which is Indiana and Maryland and Rutgers, and it's awful. And that's who Ohio State's played. What win does Ohio State have that you can justify having them ahead of Oklahoma that's undefeated? It doesn't make any sense. They've literally beat up on the bottom half of their conference. They beat Penn State, who lost to Illinois, 3-6 Illinois. For those people that want to also argue the Oregon loss being really, really bad, to a 3-6 Stanford, Illinois is 3-6 as well. It just doesn't make any sense, the whole thing. I mean, there was poor communication in the delivery of the rankings. It was a horrible way to put the teams ranked in the top 10. And it's just, honestly, at this point, it's disrespectful. I feel like, to Oklahoma and to Cincinnati, and I'll even throw Michigan State in there as well. So
it is like, you go through this top 10. Who has Ohio State beaten?
Mm-hmm.
Who has Michigan beaten?
Right.
Who has who was said or who was the other one?
Ohio State. We said Ohio State. We said Michigan. Oregon.
And then Alabama. Who have they beat? Who has Alabama beaten?
Right.
These teams have beaten nobody. And to be ahead of a 9-0 Power 5 team who's always making the playoffs, who's hasn't had a defense in a decade, but it has found ways to win. It is disrespectful, and it's just so contradictory because this, like you said, Michigan State beat Michigan 10 days ago, and Michigan State is now behind Michigan. The committee they did not want Michigan State in front of Michigan. Did you see what the person said on the show last night? They said, we feel Michigan is a more dominant and complete team. Right. They just lost to Michigan State 10 days ago. And then they have Oregon ahead of Ohio State. And tell me this, Ohio State is better than Oregon right now. Yes or no?
I mean, on the field,
yes.
Based off the game that they played, they're not. And that's just my opinion. And
so you agree with Oregon over Ohio State?
I agree with Oregon over Ohio State. I don't agree with them in the top 5, much less the top 4. I think that you're talking about, you want to talk about who should be ranked 8 and who should be ranked 9. That's where your conversation with Oregon and Ohio State should be, not having them in the college football playoff. And, a good buddy of mine, Kamiar Mehrabian, said the other day on Twitter, and he quoted Gary Barta about Michigan, now that you bring it up, where Barta said, at the end of the day, we thought about Michigan was a better team and deserved to be ranked ahead of Michigan State. And Kamiar quoted that tweet and said, this is exactly where there needs to be a balance between humans and computers for the rankings. If losses don't matter at the end of the day, then the system is far worse than the BCS. And I believe that's 100% correct, because at the end of the day, we saw this all the time back when the SEC was becoming, this big power conference where it was the best conference in the country back in 2008, 2009, when the SEC and ESPN really started pumping the SEC a lot. And you saw a lot of games like what Oklahoma's won. You saw LSU struggling to beat Georgia. You saw LSU struggling to beat Kentucky. You saw LSU struggling to play against games against Arkansas and win. You saw them. So, for me, it's like Tennessee and Arkansas struggling against one another when they're good and bad. And it's just like you see those games, good teams, championship teams find ways to win. Alabama's done it year after year, never been punished for it. Clemson's done it year after year, never been punished for it. You see Georgia do it year after year, never gets punished for it. So what is the difference? Why are we weighting whole entire conferences and then holding these teams back and then holding them different standards when you can only control what you play, who you play on the field? And this is really another reason, when you check the box and the list of things of why Oklahoma's leaving the Big 12, this is just another reason why. There's no respect for the University of Oklahoma, and honestly, with the history that the University of Oklahoma has, we demand it, especially with the excellence that we've had in the football program.
Yeah, SEC love, and somehow the Big 10 is getting love now.
I just don't understand it.
You just wish if they put Oregon in front of Ohio State. Personally, I think if they played again, I think Ohio State would win. If they played next week, I think I'd pick Ohio State over Oregon. But they're not going to.
Same thing about Michigan and Michigan State. But
yeah, they did it for Oregon, Ohio State, but didn't do it for Michigan State. Anything else in the top 25 that get your attention? For me, they finally put UTSA at 23. They're 9-0. I know it's not a great conference. They don't really play great teams, but they went to UTEP last week at 8:15 kick, 8:15 p.m. kick. And they just blew the brakes off UTEP. They won by like 40 or something. I put UTSA in the top 10. You can't make much difference between teams 2 through 10 right now. I'd go ahead and I think they're definitely a top 15 team compared to what these other teams are. I think they should be maybe in the top 15 for sure, maybe top 10, just because I think they can hang at least for a while. You see in these bowl games like last year with Cincinnati hanging with Georgia, these smaller teams can compete with these larger teams. And then Purdue jumping all the way to 19 after a win. I know they probably the two best wins of the year, Iowa and Penn State, or Iowa and Michigan State. And then Baylor only dropping one spot after giving up 500 yards to a quarterback making his first start and a team who just fired their quarterback. I love that for the Big 12. But
I literally was about to say actually about the Big 12. I think that is probably the smallest drop any Big 12 team has had in any college football playoff rankings after a loss. And then again, that's kind of why I point back at that weighting the conferences and stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense. And then how do you explain dropping Baylor one spot? That doesn't make any sense.
The committee makes no sense every week. This is just the worst. This is the worst I've ever seen the committee. I mean, they always leave a team out in the end, but this is bad.
The Baylor thing was really the one thing for me that really just kind of was like that just makes zero sense to me, just because you not only did they lose to an unranked team that I believe has a losing record. I can't remember TCU off the top of my head. I want to say they were like 3-5 going into the last weekend or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're 4-5 now, I believe.
Right. So, the big thing about that is they just fired their head coach. So you not only did you lose to a team with a losing record that's unranked, but you lost to a losing team with a losing record without a head coach.
And Tanner Mordecai made his first start, or which was it, Mordecai?
No, that was Chandler Morris.
Chandler Morris, first career start, 500 yards passing.
And it's like, then you add that in there too. So it's just like, there's no way to make this loss look good for Baylor. And they dropped one spot. And I was fully prepared for Baylor to be 24-25. Oh, yeah. I'm talking about, I was expecting them to drop like a rock. Yeah. And they moved back one spot. It doesn't make any sense.
And then you see Wake Forest drop 2 spots. I mean, they weren't favored going into the game. I picked North Carolina to win that game, They had a 15-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and then gave up 60. So they only fell 2 spots. But
200 team, by the way. North Carolina was 4-4 in that game. So it's and they dropped 2 spots. I just don't understand it. Like I said, there's just so many head scratches. UTSA, I think that they should be top 16. That's what it takes to be able to be considered for a New Year's Six Bowl. And I think this is where the committee fails a lot. Is they don't just go ahead and give the teams that are undefeated the opportunity, the UTSAs of the world, the Marshalls in 2014 or 2015, I can't remember when it was. Go ahead and rank them high. If they lose a couple of games, it takes care of themselves, and you can move them out of the rankings or as far back in the rankings you want. But give them the chance. That's the whole reason we came to the playoff and changed to the playoff, was to give the Boise States of the world, those group of 5 teams, the opportunity to have a chance at the playoff. And as you can see clearly from these rankings, instead we're getting political agendas being pushed, and it's become about money. And then you want to talk about how ESPN may have a hand in this because it's their show, and you have the NCAA getting involved now because this is their league. And then you want to talk about, well, now that you have this third entity in the committee and all their personal biases and stuff like that to come into it. So there's a lot that's coming into play in these rankings, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's getting people like you and me riled up and talking about how awful they are and stuff like that, because guess what? That makes us want to go back next week and see what the hell they're going to do then. You know what I mean? So it's, they're doing what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and one last thing before we move on to this week's picks. Notice how there's no SMU, there's no Houston ranked. These are 1-loss teams in group of 5 conferences. They've been 1-loss teams, and they've been really good.
Which beat TCU, who beat Baylor. I'm just saying. That's just me, though.
Doesn't make any sense, bro. I'm ready to go back to the BCS. Bring it back.
Give me computers. Give me computers.
There needs to be some computers at least in the mix. So let's break down this week's college football action. Let's start with some Big Ten games. Number 6, Michigan at Penn State. I think the line opened up -1 for Penn State, but now it's even as of last few hours. Even line, so no one knows who's going to win this game. Big Ten West showdown. Michigan has relied heavily on the run game this whole season. Haskins, their quarterback, 829 yards, 11 touchdowns. Penn State with 3 losses on the year, 2 bad ones. But 2 of them by less than a field goal combined, and then the other was 9 by Ohio State, 9 points by Ohio State, and they're 2-2 versus the top 25. I'm not really sold on Michigan. Anything can happen in the Big Ten, like we've seen. Cade McNamara, the Michigan quarterback, has not had a great year. 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, so pretty steady for the Big Ten. But Sean Clifford with 2,300 yards, 16 touchdowns. I'm going upset. I don't know if it's an upset. The line's even, but Penn State 21-17. I just think the Big Ten's just starting to fall. Michigan, this is where they collapse towards the end of the year. I don't think they can keep it going.
I mean, that's been the trend for both teams, right? You see Penn State, they play up to competition a lot. And they play against bad competition, they play down to bad competition. That's been the big thing a lot of people are really frustrated about in college. I almost said College Station, College Park, University or whatever it is over there in Pennsylvania. They get really frustrated, obviously, just because it seems like they can't play just dominant. You know what I mean? Like they've got great teams, they've got good solid teams, but they play up and down to their competition. And then you have Michigan, who obviously in the last half of the last 2 or 3 years has really, really struggled. Obviously the Ohio State game is always back there. That's usually a big reason or a big cause for why they're struggling so bad. I know they came in with the number 1 defense a couple of years ago in the country and then gave up 60 to Ohio State. It just seems like it's Penn State. You know what I mean? It seems like a good opportunity for the upset to happen just because of the characteristics that both teams have.
So Penn State?
Yeah, Penn State.
All right. They played great against Ohio State until the last 2 minutes or so when they kicked that field goal or whatever. But so both going Penn State. I hope Vegas is listening. So let's move to the SEC. Number 11, Texas A&M. Great win last week actually against Auburn. Heads to Ole Miss. Number 15 in the land. A&M's favored by 2.5.
These are two pretty hot SEC teams right now. A&M is finally getting up to that hype. I'm finally going to give them some love this week. Both teams can definitely control their own destiny, actually, in the SEC with 2 losses. The Ole Miss defense is giving up 430 yards per game. So I expect Spillers to just run all over.
Right.
I think A&M will pretty much do maybe whatever they want to this defense. But it can be Matt Corral's signature Heisman Trophy winning game. This could definitely be it. But that said, I'm going Aggies 28-25.
Here's the thing, man, and this is the big thing for me, is who do you have more faith in, Matt Corral or Calzada? And I got more faith in Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin. That's just me. I think that Ole Miss defense is obviously the most suspect. And this, you're going to have good on good for Texas A&M and Ole Miss, and bad on bad. Offense is bad for Texas A&M. Defense is bad for Ole Miss. Offense is good for Ole Miss. Defense is good for Texas A&M. It's a good old gritty, old-fashioned Big 12 matchup. So I'm all good for it, and I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
All right, Ole Miss. First differ in the picks. All right, second though. So let's go back to the Big Ten. Purdue, who comes in at 19 on the week, heads to number 4 Ohio State. Ohio State's actually given or favored by 20 points in this. That's actually a little surprising to me. I might fly to Vegas and bet on Purdue for this game. They're called the spoilers, spoiler makers for a reason. Stroud, though, he has stepped up since that Oregon loss, like I mentioned earlier. Defense, though, they're actually one of the worst in the countries. I don't know why they're not talking about that in these college football playoff shows. They rank 104th overall total defense. Purdue, I think they're going to air it out against this Ohio State secondary. Purdue actually has more top 25 wins than Ohio State right now. I think it'll be a very interesting, fun, high-powered offense game. But with that said, I'm going Bucks 31-28, but I think America, we're all rooting for the spoiler makers. And I definitely think Purdue can get this done. I really do.
I mean, you look at what Purdue has turned into over the last several years, based off of that big win against Ohio State. Their whole recruiting game has changed a lot, and they've been getting a lot of pieces that they normally don't get. David Bell being one of those guys, he's just been a monster. And I think that he'll probably have a pretty big game. I think that we're going to see Purdue kind of come out and jump on Ohio State. Ohio State's going to try to outswag Purdue in the first half, come in, get their head on straight, and then they're going to come out in the second half, and they're absolutely going to beat the crap out of Purdue. And I've actually got them winning like 49-21. Really? So I think it'll be 21-14 at the half, Purdue. And then I think Ohio State just opens up the can on them in the second half, man.
Wow. I can definitely see it being super close at half, and then Ohio State just coming out, especially since it's at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
But Purdue did go to Iowa, and they were at Michigan State, I believe, weren't they?
Yeah. They the Michigan State.
No, they're at Purdue when they played Michigan State. Yeah. So 1-1, home and
they've got one on the road, one at home. So.
All right, let's add another Purdue.
I would love to be wrong about that one. I'll go ahead and I'll say that.
Me too.
Purdue, if you're out there right now, make me happy.
That's true. Ohio State will probably move up to number 2 with the loss, quality loss.
It's a very quality loss to a top 20 team.
Number 8, Oklahoma heads to number 13, Baylor. Oklahoma, 5.5-point favorite, 9-0. Feel disrespected by the committee. Baylor coming off of just an awful, shocking loss where they're expected to win to a Gary Patterson-less TCU. The last 4 games in Waco have been crazy. With OU coming into town, I expect nothing less this year. Gary Bohannon, I think he's got a case to be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. Obviously, now we'll put him behind Williams, but he's probably the second best quarterback in the Big 12. 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Baylor really relies on that running game, averaging 230 yards rushing a game. That's remarkable. I do expect him, Baylor, just run the ball down our throats the whole game, like these other teams have been doing, keeping Caleb Williams off the bench or on the bench, limiting their possessions in the first half for sure. I think if OU can get one to 2 turnovers, maybe just one, capitalize off that, I think they're in great shape. They have been really lucky against Baylor. I think the trend continues, and OU is undefeated in November since 2014.
History's on their side. This team knows how to win down the stretch. I'm going OU 35-29. They give up some points, but that offense saves them again.
I disagree that
Really?
we're not going to be giving up a lot of points. I think
okay.
there's a few things that I've seen this week that were very interesting. Number one, Lincoln last week when the polls got released, he didn't really say a lot. Normally when Lincoln's, spinning the yarn and talking at the stand,
we're close. We're close every time.
He's always spinning the yarn, but this week he kept it short and sweet. My guy is pissed. He had to sit for 2 weeks and watch his team get absolutely disrespected in the polls. And then on top of that, you have to listen to Joey Galloway, probably the worst college football analyst of all time, dog you on college football final. No, and then the other thing that I saw, you got Nick Benito. I don't know the context of this. Maybe he's feeling a little frustrated. But I guess in one of the games the other night, they were rushing one of their better rusher. Nick Benito said, well, this is what happens when you let your rushers rush. And then he deleted the tweet. So I'm thinking Nick Benito is really feeling kind of frustrated. I think that Lincoln and Alex Grinch are both dialing up a game plan that's just going to absolutely come out and smack Baylor in the face. I think that they're going to set Nick Benito free. I think you're going to see the linebackers get a lot more active in coverage. I think you're going to see them shut down the run game up front. You got Jalen Redmond back. You're going to get that push. You've got Perry on Winfrey is going to be coming out playing like an absolute madman.
Woody Washington is back.
Yep, Woody Washington's back. So we're going to be getting best on best in the secondary. I'm excited for it. You know what I mean? This is probably the most healthy that Oklahoma's been in the last month. And we're rolling in, coming off of a bye week. Everybody got a little bit of extra rest. There was
Baylor's
obviously
not feeling as high. Baylor's kind of down right now.
There's a lot of bulletin board material for Oklahoma, and Baylor is limping into this game right now. I have Oklahoma winning, and I think it's going to be probably about 5 or 6 touchdowns difference. I think we're going to blow the lid off of McLean Stadium, maybe get a couple turnovers here in the first half, just flip the game on its head early, and then coast our way to the win.
All right, let's hope so. I mean, expect nothing less. I mean, the players look mad on Twitter, so we'll see if they bring that to the field. It should be fun down in Waco. Anything else to add college football wise?
No, man. I mean, really, the big thing that I'm going to say is definitely watch that Georgia-Tennessee game this week. That's going to be the best offense that Georgia's faced all year, and I think that's going to be a pretty decent measuring stick. Tennessee's a 5-4 team, not a lot of flash when you look at it, but they put up some points on some people this year. So I'm pretty interested to see how that game turns out.
They just came off a win against Kentucky, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, top
20.
Yeah, I think they're 16. So good win for Tennessee. Georgia's best team they're going to face so far. So keep an eye on that. That's all from college football. Let's move into the NFL. Let's talk power rankings first. NFL power rankings, just an insane week. But I don't know what to make of it in NFL. But let's go through this. Number 10 for me. We'll go through our 10 through 5 each, and then we'll go 5 through 1. Number 10, I've got the Browns. No OBJ, no problem. They look pretty good against a pretty good Bengals team that's been finding their way with the run game and pass game. Number 9, I've got the Bills dropping all the way down to number 9. Just awful loss against Jacksonville. They still got great signs on offense, but they've got to use it, especially with Stephon Diggs. Number 8, I've got the Chargers. Close win against Philadelphia, but coming at number 8, dropping a little bit. Number 7, I got the Dallas Cowboys. They've got the offense, but it just took a bye week last week against Denver, losing 30-0. I don't know how to explain that, but I'm dropping the Cowboys to 7 on that. And then number 6, I've got the Ravens. I believe they won this past weekend, but they look pretty good. Starting to form. Lamar Jackson starting to do pretty good, turning it on. So that's my 6 through 10. What are your 6 through 10?
Gosh, I'm going to be honest with you. My 6 through 10, I've got 10. I've got Buffalo, 9, I've got the Chargers. 8, I've got. Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
You bring some for the rest of us?
It's all good. Yeah, I got some food delivered. I was at number 8, right?
Yeah.
I've got Pitt. I've got Pittsburgh at number 8. I think that I think they're starting to kind of get back a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, pay the refs. Okay, yeah.
So,
That's how you win games.
I've also got Deontay Johnson on my fantasy team. So I'm like, I've been a big fan of him this year because he's been giving me a lot of points. So, got to throw him a bone,
Yeah.
Number 7, I've got, oh gosh, I can't remember who I said so far. Good grief. I'm sorry.
Chargers, Bills, Steelers.
Yeah, and then I've got Dallas. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right, so we both got Dallas.
I lost my place. I've got Dallas. As a Dallas fan, I always expect that when we start off 6-1, we're immediately going to follow it by going 1-6, because I'm an optimist. If I was a pessimist, I'd say we go 0-7, but I'm an optimist. We'll win a game. And then I've got Tampa Bay.
All right, my 5-1. I've got Tampa Bay at 5. So not much difference there. And then the Rams at 4. They've looked really good. 2 losses, just that awful Sunday night performance. Number 3, I've got the Titans. I can't believe they're number 3 right now. I don't know how. No Derrick Henry. They went into LA and just stomped the Rams. Looked great on all cylinders. Then number 2, I'm keeping the Packers here or actually I dropped in one spot, but I'm keeping them in top 2. Just they almost beat the Chiefs without Aaron Rodgers, and they look so bad. Aaron Rodgers just carries that team, and they still had a chance to win. It was an awful game to watch. But I got the Packers at 2, and then Cardinals are retaking their throne at number 1. No Kyler Murray, no Hopkins. Cole McCoy is the backup. They dropped 41 points on the road. Put them back at number 1. Cardinals looking like Super Bowl contenders right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So I've actually got the Rams coming in at number 5. Number 4, I've got Baltimore. Number 3, I've got Green Bay as well. Number 2, Tennessee, and then Arizona. Number 1, pretty boring top 5 there. But Arizona, for me, coming into their third year? Kyler Murray's third year. Second year.
Second.
Third year.
Oh, third.
Third year, yeah. So coming into his third year. Jesus, it's been so long, man. But gosh, Kyler, dude, is just an absolute game changer. And, I love to bring it up. Whenever he was making the decision of going pro or coming back and playing football in college, I went on a lot of podcasts. And I had a lot of people who were telling me how stupid I was, that I was suggesting that Kyler should pass up on the easy money and give give college football a try. He did it, worked out pretty well, if you ask me. And how about Cliff Kingsbury failing upwards and getting fired from Texas Tech, hired as a professional coach, and now he's got the number 1 team in the league. Yeah. There's just so much about Arizona to love. And it's you think about DeAndre Hopkins with all the stuff that happened with Bill O'Brien and him in Houston. You talk about JJ Watt and the character and the individual that he is. I mean, it's really honestly just a Texans rehab facility at this point. You know what I mean? But it's such a good story. You know what I mean? And I'm not so much of an NFL fan as I am a college football fan. So I always do kind of root for those teams that are like the underdogs outside of my team, the Cowboys, because I have nothing to cheer for as a Cowboys fan ever. But I went for the Cardinals when they played in the Super Bowl. I'm still going for the Cardinals. I'd love to see Kyler win a Super Bowl, hopefully against Baker.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. The Cardinals just look phenomenal. And who are your Super Bowl picks right now? It's pretty easy, I think, on the NFC side. AFC side is kind of hard. I mean, looking at our top 10, it's basically all NFC. I know a few weeks ago, my whole top 5 was NFC, and my whole bottom 5 was AFC.
Right.
But right now, I think I really don't know. I know Cardinals, and then it could be the Ravens, it could be the Browns, it could be Chargers, it could be anyone. But I know Cardinals for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So,
All right, let's pick a few NFL games. Not many great games. It's been a pretty bad slate the last few weeks.
it really has. Middle of the year, kind of funky, you know.
Yeah. So let's start with Cleveland at New England. New England's actually favored by 1.5. I think that's because no Nick Chubb. But don't worry, no OBJ. So they're gonna get a win. Cleveland, they looked really good over the Bengals, 41-16. The Cincinnati team's looked pretty good last 2 weeks. Baker had a perfect passer rating. Pretty insane. Putting all those haters, telling them to shut up. No Chubb though. No other running back as well. So that's definitely going to hurt. I don't know who's going to be their running back. I'll probably find some dude in the middle of the street on Cleveland.
All right.
Mac Jones though does need to limit his throws to the other team. He's had a problem with some interceptions, and I think this third-ranked Cleveland defense will give Mac Jones, the rookie, a few problems. Browns rely on Baker, and I think he should pull out a win at Foxborough. I'm going low scoring, 23-20.
Yeah, I've got Cleveland as well. Obviously, right now there's just so much pressure off of Cleveland's locker room now that OBJ is gone. He's a very toxic individual. I would definitely say he's right up there with T.O. type toxic individual for a locker room. And he showed it, you know, and I've never heard Baker say a bad thing about Odell through this whole entire situation. He's been a great teammate. He's been a great leader. And, you know, obviously Odell has gone on and trashed. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think that Cleveland is kind of hitting their groove now. They play better without Odell. When they don't have, you know, their better, you know, running backs available, Baker usually rises to the top in those situations and they pull it out somehow. So I'm completely comfortable with picking Cleveland in that game. And I think they actually win by a touchdown. You know, again, like you said, Mac Jones having some growing pains, but, you know, it's his rookie year. I think it'll be close. I just think that it's going to be Cleveland in the end.
Yeah, Baker's going to have the turnover list, I think, if they want to win, because there is no run game. There's literally no run game to rely on.
4 touchdowns. I'm calling it 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns? All right, I can see that. New England defense they're pretty mediocre.
No. I also have Baker as my fantasy quarterback. So, yeah.
All right. So speaking of quarterbacks, we know one's going to be back. We don't know if this other quarterback will be back, but Seattle heads to Green Bay. Green Bay favored by 3, but that's with the perception that Aaron Rodgers will be back. We don't know yet. Probably know next few days. So Wilson and Rodgers are going to be a great quarterback matchup. Packers, they won 7 in a row with Rodgers at the helm. They should have won 8 basically. But Seattle is second to last in defense. The Legion of Boom, 12th man, just fallen apart recently. I believe Seattle has a losing record.
It's 3-5.
3-5. So it's going to be a lot to turn it around. I don't know how healthy Russ will be. I know it's just his finger, but I mean, he missed a long period of time. See if he's rusty, see if that finger is actually working. If Rodgers is back, I don't expect this game to be close at all. Snow in the forecast actually for this game. So it's going to be a must watch in Lambeau. I think Green Bay wins 31-17. Seattle just hasn't been the same in the last few years, and we'll see how Russ does when he gets back, but I don't think it should be MVP type.
Weird stuff always happens when Seattle and Green Bay get together. So it just makes sense there's going to be snow. So it's going to be weird and it's going to be in snow. So I'm just excited for it. I don't know what it is about snow football games that got me so excited whenever I was growing up. It's just the most fun thing to watch, but it's like the most awful. It's the most awful football that you could possibly watch, but it's like a train wreck. You just can't take your eyes off the screen. I remember watching Tom Brady. He had like 2 pairs of gloves on in like 2006, and it's in the snow, and they're going up against the Raiders, and I mean it was insane. And I don't know why. I just love those type of games. But home team, I'm taking Green Bay in this. Seattle is just a shell of themselves defensively from, like you said, the Legion of Boom years. But I'm going with Green Bay in that one.
Yeah, I've been to one snow NFL game, and offense looked awful. We had Drew Lock at quarterback, so I mean, it wasn't going to be good anyways.
Defensive fans will be pleased, but
yeah. And then this team, I don't even know what to make of this team. Kansas City at Las Vegas. Kansas City's favored by 2.5 for some reason. You trying to go to Vegas and bet on the Raiders for this game? Like, come on.
Oh, goodness.
What do you got in this game?
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've actually been talking to this girl. She's a Kansas City fan. I'm picking Kansas City for that, but it's gonna be close. It's kind of one of those games. You have both quarterbacks are really looking just not the way that anybody expected them to look this year. Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of troubles throwing the ball to the wrong team. So, I think that it's going to be a defensive game. I'll say 24-17 Kansas City.
You think Kansas City puts up 24 points? I don't know if they can put up that many points. That's a lot.
I'm being cautiously optimistic is what I'm doing right now.
I mean, Derek Carr, he looked really good this year. I know last week they looked awful, but there was just so much going on with Las Vegas and Henry Ruggs situation. So you kind of expected it to not be as good.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, they've got 3 losses on the year. I mean, we kind of expected last week to be one, but he's looked really good. This is my lock of the week. I'm taking Vegas in the points, man. Come on, at Vegas too. They're not playing at Arrowhead. Mahomes is just out. Mahomes was outperformed by Love last week, which, oh my goodness. But Carr having a good year. I just can't trust Mahomes in that defense right now. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't trust Mahomes. I can't. I don't understand how I'm saying that. But I'm going Vegas 27-21, actually. So I got them putting up 21 points.
There you go. So no, we're somewhat on the same page there. You know what I mean? So okay,
maybe a late touchdown. But all right, let's pick our final game of the day. Philadelphia at Denver. Denver favored by 2.5. Who you got in this one?
And the NFC East is just bad. And obviously Jalen's in Philadelphia. Doesn't have a whole lot of people to throw to. We just watched Denver's defense put on a show last week. So I'm not too keen on picking the Eagles in this game. So I'm taking the Broncos. I think it's going to be a lot like last week. I think it's going to be a lot like last week. I think you're going to see Denver dominate.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is. I mean, what are they, 4-5 right now?
Jalen, no, they're 3-6.
3-6. Yeah. Oh yeah, they had that loss. They should have won last week against the Chargers. But yeah, Denver just coming off that massive win, 30-0, basically 30-0. They got 2 touchdowns late, 30-16 over Dallas. But listen to this. Last week, Philly's defense versus the Chargers, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. Or this is the Chargers offense, 0 interceptions, give up 0 sacks, 0 punts, 0 QB hurries, and they let the Chargers go to the Philadelphia 27-yard line at least every possession. At least the 27-yard line every possession. So that is tank season right there. Jalen Hurts has been carrying, but that defense is in full tank mode. This is the NFL. You can't force a punt or a quarterback hurry, and you're letting the other team go to the 27-yard line. I'm not picking them to win this game. This may be a lock of the week too. Denver, they're looking hot after that 3-0 start they had. They lost 4 straight, but I think they're looking a little better. Teddy Bridgewater has actually been statistically the best quarterback in the NFL the last 2 weeks. Teddy 2 hands.
There you go.
So I'm taking Denver 24-13 in this one. Jalen Hurts has been playing pretty good football, just no defense.
Yeah. It's hard to really imagine Philadelphia with a defense. I mean, outside of a couple players here and there, I know they had Javon Curse for a few years on the defensive line. They had Brian Dawkins as a safety, probably one of the best safeties in the league, honestly, back then. Yeah. Outside of that, it's just Philadelphia is not known for their defense, but they always used to be able to whip it together when they played against the Cowboys. And here I am, still sad, 20 some odd years later, waiting on another Super Bowl.
At least you have a decent quarterback, I guess. At least
when he's not getting blown over in the wind or getting dropped 2 inches really hard, something like that.
Well, that's it for the NFL. Anything else to add NFL wise?
I don't think so, man. I really would love to see Jerry Jeudy get some points this week. He's also on my fantasy team. I'm just like,
I
man,
think anyone playing Philadelphia is going to get some points this week. I'd play all the entire Denver offense.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I mean the big thing for me, obviously, is it's going to be really interesting to see how Dallas bounces back from that, and I really want to see how Denver follows up that win because that was big. That was
Who
really
does Dallas
big.
play?
Dallas plays the Falcons, so
Should bounce back.
But we've struggled with the Falcons a lot, so I don't know. I'm again cautiously optimistic that they're gonna bounce back. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Actually, before I let you go, I want to get I didn't ask you your what do you think the Final Four will be for college football, and then your national championship picks?
Well, so
Final Four.
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see probably Georgia at number 1. I don't see them losing to Alabama. I think that you're going to see Cincinnati and Oklahoma at 2 or 3 in whatever order. Obviously, I think that they're both going to win out. I don't think that it'll be necessarily pretty on both sides the entire time, but I think that they'll definitely be in the top 4, and then that fourth team is the one that I've really been struggling with. Is because
Big 10 team, right?
Big 10. In one way, I want to lean and I want to go Notre Dame. Just because it seems like it could be that type of a situation. Just because obviously it seems like it's that way with Georgia every year. So why wouldn't we do the same thing with Notre Dame? No, I think Oregon sneaks in. I think that Oregon will sneak in at number 4, but I think that it's going to be Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma in whatever order there, and then Oregon.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we both can agree on Georgia's our national champion.
No,
really,
absolutely not. Absolutely. I'm sticking with my original pick that I've had not just this year, but 5 years ago down the line when Lincoln Riley became head coach. 2021 was a year that everybody in Oklahoma social media had circled with the change at quarterback and just the way that the defense and the team is playing. All the guys that we've got coming back, the Luis is going to be coming back here pretty soon. I think that we're going to find a way. It just seems like this team is just destined to find a way. They've done it in every single game. It hadn't been pretty at a lot of times, but they've just found a way to win. And that's what great teams do. That's what championship teams do. I think that Oklahoma has the opportunity. I think they have the team. I think they have the grit. And, you look at what's got them there. Baker got us our swag back. You know what I mean? Kyler got us our tenacity back, and then you've got Jalen came in and he taught us how to win and what winning teams have and characterize themselves off of. And then you had Spencer, who was the gamer last year. You know what I mean? And then now you have Caleb, who's just Superman, that's just making these ridiculous things happening all over the field. I think that the stars are aligned. I think that this is just going to be one of those years where Sooner Magic just reigns supreme. And we've already seen a lot of it this year, so why not see some more? Give me Oklahoma.
I picked OU in the beginning of the year too, but it was over Clemson. It doesn't look so good of a pick right now. I don't think Clemson's getting in.
Yeah.
But
I've got Oklahoma.
All right. Matt, thanks for joining us. Remind everyone what you do and where we can find you. Grass News, where can we find you?
Absolutely. And again, Braxton, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. This was really fun. But again, all you guys can follow me on Twitter. Just look for the Prairie Report or Prairie Report OU is the and just look for me in there. Little red profile picture, the most chaotic, neutral Oklahoma account out there, Grass News, as dubbed by Burgers&Brats. And man, just come out, have a good time, joke around a lot, enjoy game days, celebrate together, cry together. We'll figure it out,
All right, Matt. It's been a pleasure having you on. Everyone, thank you all for listening. Make sure you follow anywhere you get your podcast at Burgers&Brats, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Pandora, anywhere else. And then stay up to date with latest news on Twitter and Instagram. And hopefully you're watching on YouTube at Burgers&Brats. Thank you all for listening. Take care. Stay safe.